Hey guys, welcome into the Falaya Focus studio, where today we're here with Emile Hurst. He's a real estate investor from the Westbank. He also does the Westbank investor meetup group. So he's, heavy into real estate investing, buy and holds, flips, wholesaling, the whole 9 yards. So we're excited to talk to him about that, as well as him becoming a real estate agent and choosing why he decided to do that. I kind of want to pick his brain on that and kind of, get into everything real estate investing. So welcome in, Emile.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Lovely place you have. I love what you've done with the place.
You like what I've done with the place? Yeah, we definitely designed it out, man, and tried to make it as nice as possible, man. I'm glad that we got to bring you in here. I know we met like a year ago at the New Orleans Home and Garden Show. You just happened to be walking by, and it was just happenstance. And then it's just interesting how our networks have weaved over the last year, man. I just met you a year ago, so
perfect. Well, congratulations to you, man. I think one of the things that stood out, we were at that Home and Garden Show with my wife, and I saw Falaya, and I'm like, a startup in Louisiana. I gotta talk to him because the whole model, everything you guys put together, like I was impressed. So congratulations to what you guys are doing, and however we can help, let me know.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I definitely think there's going to be ways for us to partner up with, especially with you being an agent now, and send you some deal flows, hopefully.
Let's do it.
There's no doubt. Hopefully partner up and we can show the world that we actually provide value to agents, not just take business away, right? So
I'm on board.
Yeah, that's completely the thing. So I guess kind of tell people who you are and kind of what do you do?
Yeah, so got into real estate business probably about 2011, 2012. Got introduced to it like all the thousands of other people online read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
And then in the back of the book, it tells you, to get into the business, join your New Orleans real estate. Well, not New Orleans, your real estate associate, your local REIA. So that was kind of like my gateway into it. So I went to, which is no REIA, which is in New Orleans. Yep. And then, anything new, you got to try to find what the law of the land is. So learning like the language, learning the culture, learning the investment community. Because growing up, the only exposure I had to real estate investing, like I had aunts, cousins, and uncles that were agents, had a few family members that had a few rental properties. But then when I went to REIA, like now you have to cookie trade with somebody with 100 units. Now, you walk into the punch bowl with somebody that's doing 6 flips a month, right? So that starts to expand your mind and get your wheels turning. Like, first of all, I can do this. And then second of all, like I can do it at XYZ rate. So from there, wholesaling was like the quick and dirty way to like get your feet and your hands wet. Let me back up. I thought becoming a realtor was going to be my fastest way of becoming an investor, because the train of thought was, okay, I need to learn contracts. I need to learn real estate language. I need to learn, how to stick and move in real estate, which that did happen, to be honest with you. So with real estate investing, which is kind of like compartmentalized from sales, it's just a whole nother world. So I did come in on the side of, at least far as like activity, I came under the compliance side. I came under the listing and having sales meetings, holding open houses, things like that, which did help translate to when it came time to do wholesaling. And I gave my license up before I did it. Wholesaling, same thing. It's sales. It's holding open houses, showing them the buyers. It's setting monthly, weekly, quarterly goals. So they do run parallels. The only difference is one is just, governed by a body, and the other one is just governed by the ethics of the investor that's sitting across the table from you, or the seller that's sitting across the table from you. So that's how the journey pretty much began. And then with wholesaling, which I'm grateful for, that helped me to build up a network. And the good thing about being a wholesaler is when you wholesale to these buyers, like you get to peek inside of how each investor runs their operation. So you CC'd on those title company emails, so you get to see different structures. You get to see that, some guys put every house in an LLC with the address of the property. Some guys are throwing these houses in a trust. Some guys are doing joint ventures, and somebody is bringing in the equity side, and they're bringing in money from all these different places. So each part of the journey was valuable. And then fast forward, just naturally as you're getting deals off market and you get them at a deep discount and you're building up this liquidity, well, now I'm buying. And that kind of morphed into becoming a landlord and things like that.
Right.
And then from there, you start to even become more niche, because if I'm a landlord, now what type of landlord? Do I want to do multifamily? Well, one of my first projects was a sixplex. I learned I don't like multifamily. So it was 6 one-bedroom units in Algiers, Louisiana. One of my good friends, sold it to me. With meat on the bone, it cash flowed. But man, I learned, because at the same time I did have like two single families at the same time. And the challenge of, man, the psychographics of people that rent in multifamily, nothing against that, but I mean overall at scale, the management of those low income units. Like there's just a different psychology with those type of prospects. Now, don't get me wrong, there's beautiful candidates. There's great people that rent those properties, but I think everybody would agree that there's another population that just has a different mindset and approach. If I'm staying in a property, and there's 4 other people living around me, like I just have to have a certain mindset to pay $600 a month to stay in a certain type of neighborhood also, which comes from a different appetite and a different approach with management.
I think it's the thing that's glorified as multifamily right now. It's like, oh yeah. The thing about that is multifamily is awesome.
Yeah.
If you have scale. So 6-plex, 4-plex, that's not multifamily. Like it's okay. It sounds multifamily. But multifamily to me is if you got 100 units or 50 units, and you have a salesperson that's doing it, you have a management, maintenance people, and you're not doing shit, right? By collecting the cash flow. But for that, you're not getting as much appreciation. Mm-hmm. You can get some forced appreciation, and you can get some forced value add, but that's from you doing stuff. And putting more money on the table. You don't get as much appreciation as quickly as you do in single family in these market shifts, because it's already priced so high. It's priced at the cash flow, right? All it's doing is discounting the cash flow back. So it's how much work do you want to put in? And then sometimes the other thing, single family residents tend to, they'll stay longer, in my opinion. They don't turn over as much. So if you get a good tenant in place, you could keep them there for years if they're really good tenants, and they're not, looking to buy or start buying a house. They'd really just want to be renters. Then you could have a tenant in place for 10 years. I know some people in single family dudes, they have tenants in place for 15 years, I
agree. Now, I want to add to that. So with multifamily, when you talked about a team, live by it, die by it at the same time. So if you get that 100 unit complex, and you don't have the right team in place,
for sure,
like that complex is going to flip upside down way faster than it took to reposition it, to get it financed and get in a place to where it makes sense. Because during COVID, I was a part of a joint venture, and we were looking to purchase, larger properties for that reason. And we managed the 81 unit to try to position it to get it financed. And man, you talking about cutting your teeth, getting sucker punched.
No.
It was in New Orleans East. We talking 81 units. Ooh. And I'm talking about a property to where when you talk to the police department about it, they already know which one you're talking about. Like it was that bad. So that also enlightened me as far as, find what works and just work at it. So if it is multifamily for you, fine. Like every niche works. You just got to find out which one that you can sleep at night. And that's kind of where I'm at.
I agree. Now. That is a good point. Like there's like with my rentals right now, we have 6. and I can manage all that, right? It's still a lot.
What property type?
All single family residences. See? Well, I have one that's a duplex type situation, but anyway, it just has a back house that's rented out in the front house, but they're separate properties.
Yeah.
But anyway, they, it's just, you never know. With those type of things, you can control it, right? You can put your hands. I can put my hands around 6 doors, 7 doors. You know what I mean? And manage that and handle it, man. When you start getting to a point where you can't even handle it,
right?
That's just a whole nother aspect, and you've got to rely on these other people. 80 something doors. There ain't no way for one person to do that. Not really. It's just too much. So you've got to rely on other people, and that's a different aspect, right?
Yeah. We had an office person. We had a part-time leasing agent. We had full-time maintenance person. There was a groundskeeper that worked part-time. And then there's still the third-party vendors that have to float around because the maintenance guy, he can't do the HVAC. He can't do all of the electrical. He can't weld iron railings or iron steps that fell down because they were rusted and things like that. So you really got to be built for that industry. On top of the actual asset, you got to be built to lead and manage people and deal with that turnover and manage the gaps. Because whether your leasing agent is out sick, those units still got to get leased. Whether your maintenance guy, took his vacation and he's out for 2 weeks, those work orders still got to get processed. So it falls on either the asset manager or the owner to get those things executed.
No doubt.
And that could make or break the investment.
No doubt. And that stuff ripples through the tenants, whether they're renewing or leaving.
Absolutely.
And then occupancy is a big factor on your cash flow and how much you get, and if you're looking to offload it in a certain amount of time, you got to get those rents up.
They're gonna want to see that trailing 12.
You gotta get that rents up, and it's a hustle. Bottom line is everybody thinks that real estate is passive, right? And it's not. Real estate is not a passive endeavor. I don't care what aspect you're in. There's no aspect that it's passive. Rentals, not passive. Sorry if you think it is. You haven't done it long enough. Not even with a manager, and if not even, dude, because you're gonna get phone call after phone call.
Yeah,
and because then the people are gonna call you to authorize a payment, or you're gonna have to get another person to do it, and there'll be gaps and holes. You're never gonna be completely passive.
Yeah,
unless you're literally just the money guy and there's an ops guy in place. I guess that's where you could,
then it's risky.
Then it's risky because you don't have control. So it's like, you're gonna probably get less money on your money,
right?
Because you're not doing anything. Right.
That's a good way to look at it. So that's been my experience. But I always encourage anybody, whatever niche that you think you're interested in, go for it and see for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely think you have to go try it on.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you went as an agent first and then backed out of the agent aspect to just wholesale. What was the thought process there? You just wanted to give up so you could have more not as much compliance or restrictions on you when you were a wholesaler?
Now that we're talking about it, I'm thinking about it out loud. I think it was kind of more of maybe ignorance, a little bit of fear, and a little bit of the evolution of the wholesaling niche, because now it's everywhere. It's on.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Like back
before,
then,
it was like a black market.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to talk about it. There were only a handful of title companies that understood assignments.
Right.
Even the cash buyers, there was only a handful that understood assignments, that respected the role of buying something off market through somebody else versus going direct to seller. So that decision was kind of just a mixture of, I'd rather be all the way out of it to be sure than to have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and end up getting summoned to the commission and getting caught in that gray area of was he complying or was he not complying, because it's so brand new that they don't even have laws or regulations in place about what the actual activity is. So that's the main reason. Had I had more information or did a little bit more research, maybe I would have kept the license at the same time. But we talking 2013, 2014, there is no YouTube channel on wholesaling. Like Craigslist is the Facebook marketplace at that time. And it was just a wild, wild west. So you still got a whole ton of, as far as New Orleans, a ton of Katrina properties that's still left over. So yeah, it was just faster to not be bound by anything. Right. Just me, the seller, and whatever we decide, that's what we decide to do. So that's where the decision came from. But I definitely appreciate the experience of being in that office setting, because it did give me an idea of, if I wanted to build and scale a wholesale operation, I would want it to look like this. I would want the sales rally meetings like Wolf on Wall Street. I would want offices, nationwide, the same way the bigger shops are ran, the Keller Williams, the Gardner, like a wholesale operation can operate the same exact way. And if I hadn't been exposed to it, like, it wouldn't have gave me a grand scale vision of how big I wanted to draw it. And that was the direction that I was facing, trying to scale it up to be that big.
Yeah, I think there still needs to be a lot of openness about wholesaling. Like, I think it needs to be more brought into light, and people understand why you're doing someone a service, and you're basically just trying to get rid of a property for them and try to help them out with your connections and your network. It's no more, and I think people need to really realize that that's not as big of a deal, and realtors need to embrace it, and think it needs to be more open. Right. I still feel it. I think it's more, but I still think there's a little bit of gray area that should be cleared up. Yeah. To make it really, hey, if you have this, you're good. So
what value do you see as a realtor with an operation at scale from a wholesale, another wholesale?
You're
operation?
You're helping me get product in front of my real estate investor clients, my builders, my flippers that work with me. And if you're able to bring a deal to the table that I can then become the buyer's agent on, or make some type of money on. I mean, granted, there needs to be room in it for the agent, right? Yeah. So that's the only kicker. You need to have bought it, right?
Right.
As the assignment.
That's true.
Right. So that's the only trick to it, right? Because you have pressure on that, and sometimes that's where deals fall apart. I think is that right? Yeah. And so, but at the end of the day, I think it's a benefit to the market. You're helping a distressed seller, figure out other avenues that they don't necessarily know exist.
Absolutely.
Right?
So when I was, when we were full time into it, so what the naysayers or the opposition would say, you stealing little granny's house for 30 cents on a dollar, or you're taking something away, or you're negotiating to take advantage of people. But man, I gotta tell you, each one of these transactions, we brought either an idea, we either brought a network or a skill set to the transaction that most people didn't have, because we were used to dealing with those type of properties. So when you get into those tax delinquent properties, Louisiana, we're a tax lien state. So if the property taxes are delinquent beyond 3 years, well, who's equipped to locate that tax sale purchaser, get in front of them, and have the conversation that we need a payoff for this property? I don't know how many people, I'm pretty sure there are, but that's the type of properties that we would get over and over. So when you have that type of operation, that type of stuff became second nature.
I agree, and that's where agents really don't know what they're doing. I would say a lot of times when you have situations like that, agents are like, well, I don't know what to do. Yeah, I'll say the majority of people don't know anything about that.
The title attorneys,
I would say even
the title attorneys know, but their offices are overwhelmed.
Even some title attorneys don't know, or they don't want to deal with it. I would say they do know. They don't want to deal with it. They want the easy stuff, right? They want the layups where everybody's happy and everybody's signing. They don't want the
30-year fixed mortgage, no title problems.
No title problems.
Title
perfect.
Insurance.
I ain't got to do nothing. Yes. Yeah. And it all boils down to title insurance. So if there's issues, right?
Yeah.
Then you have title insurance problems.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the likelihood that there could be title insurance problems goes up. So then your risk goes up to your return, right? Yep. Whereas if you go and sell a house off of Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge and you close a title and there's only been 2 owners and they're doctors and lawyers and they're signing, everybody's happy and eating cookie at the table.
Right.
There's no risk. So you sell the title insurance to the people, you make your money. There's no risk. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Whereas like in your deal, it's like, well, I think we can transfer the title. I think
it's hairy. And
it gets hairy, right? It gets hairy, and that's risky to the title attorney.
So that's the value add for the sellers, because some of these sellers, in addition to problems like tax delinquents, we ran into like succession issues with missing heirs, succession issues where somebody thought they were the executor or the executrix of the estate and there was no paperwork whatsoever. What do you do to try to close a property when there is no obituary, when the person that's solely on title, they never found them since Katrina, but we know that they passed away. Like there is no death certificate. All of the evidence that the title insurance needs to be okay with writing a policy, we had to learn how to get that type of evidence to put it in front of a title attorney, to submit it to the title insurance underwriter, and we got deals done that way. So I think that's the value of wholesalers to the retail market, because everybody else is running their own lane. So realtors sell, the renovators renovate, the landlords manage. So this is what the wholesaler does. They find off-market properties, but in order to make money, you got to solve the problem in order to get that assignment fee. And by the time you package up and solve that problem, now we bring it to an end buyer with everything solved, and now the property goes into commerce. So, but without that front line soldier to solve their problem, like a lot of these renovated houses in these nice areas, like been blighted for years. Somebody had to solve their problem.
I would agree. That's the thing for these cities is like, that's why I think that wholesaling needs to be more in light, is they don't understand that that's what you're solving, is the problems of the properties that have been neglected or left astray. And I mean, I've got a listing right now that's going through that a little bit. And it's might be a property for that, right? So instead of the open market. But some realtors don't know that. They don't know how to deal with it. And then others do, right? And so hopefully more people get more educated on it. It's obviously putting properties back into commerce, I think, is the biggest thing, because it can transform a whole area. Mid-city Baton Rouge, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if the flippers like me, whenever I was flipping in there, if we weren't renovating those houses and there was like 20 or 30 of us doing it, it wouldn't be what it is today.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so to your point, if you don't have that pushing the product back into the market, it's not gonna make the city better, right? And the city, and to the city's aspect, they're getting more taxes and more revenue, higher taxes, and I mean, there's no real negative to it, right? It increases security, policing is easier, I mean, there's no real negative to it other than, there could be someone that takes advantage of someone too much, but at the end of the day, you have to make your own decision of what's ethical and not ethical, and ultimately, people are taking advantage of people on the MLS every day too. So, like, what are you talking about, dude?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
And to your point, absolutely. So, full transparency, for every 5 awesome wholesalers, any 5 investors, like there's always one shady one, and that's the one that always gets publicized, and then once it's publicized, the whole niche gets a bad name. So don't get me wrong, there are some like slimy, greasy practitioners that are out there, and for these success stories, they're also the ones that had notaries that they paid to forge signatures, or forge signatures on succession documents and things like that. So these things do happen. And I think when people hear about certain niches, like that's what they instantly.
Yeah, but you got that in the realtor space too. Like I got a deal right now that's supposed to close this week. Agent didn't put that it was contingent on the sale of another property. And guess what? I get a call. It's supposed to close today. As a matter of fact, I'm supposed to be getting paid today.
Yeah.
And no, we haven't sold the house in Kenner yet. Well, what's that got to do with me, dude?
Right.
I ain't got shit to do with me.
Contractually.
Yeah, not at all, right? It's got zero to do with me. What's your problem, man?
Right.
Get at the table and let's close this thing.
Wow.
And then, but we need the funds from this. Well, if you need the funds from that, you should be contingent, right? Like, what are you doing? You're basically being unethical. So to your point, what I'm saying is, it's not, oh God, wholesalers are bad. It's just there's bad apples. Whether it's a realtor, it's a wholesaler, it's a cop, it's a this.
Yeah.
There's all kind of bad people out there, and that shouldn't stop other things from happening. There are a lot of good people too. Right?
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
There's a lot of great agents out there.
I just want the audience to know, is because I know you applauded the niche, but in addition to that, there's still some, that you got to watch out for. And because I'm pro investor, and I know that a lot of investors buy it from wholesalers. So I just didn't want them to think that this is an honorable niche, and because he's a wholesaler, he's good. You still got to do your due diligence.
Just like anything. I mean,
on the person.
You've got to, and that's where Falaya can come into. If you need advice, on that, that's valuable. Do service. We do contract review, right? You could go on Falaya.com and book a session with us for $350. We'll review the contract, negotiate it, make sure you're not getting you're set up for contractual problems, and explain it to you, right? And so, there's a lot of value that can be brought in that, right?
That's good.
So, you just need to have someone in your corner. Maybe not believe the wholesaler. Yeah. Maybe give us a call or have your real estate friend read it so that you understand what you're signing.
Yeah, especially if it's your first transaction.
First transaction, you've never done this before, and you're just a seller. Correct. You need to get some advice, man, because you don't know what you're signing. And usually, once you're a seller, you're kind of screwed. Yeah, like there ain't usually a whole lot of ways out of the deal for you. Once you sign the thing, you're kind of under contract until that buyer releases you. Yeah, 9 times out of 10. Yeah. Depending on how it's written. So as a seller, once you signed, you're kind of stuck like Chuck. I had some sellers that signed with a wholesaler, and it was kind of weird, and they ended up, really was bad. It was a bad experience, right? And then they contacted me to sell it. Right. So it definitely happens that way, to do that, Yeah. But anyway,
good stuff, man. I wanted to add also for the investors. What else could happen when you say once you sign, going back to the title insurance, a lot of times also with those hairy titles, which is why you should always, always, always get title insurance. And sometimes you got to add endorsements just to protect yourself. But there are instances where, the title attorney said the title was clean, title insurance said the title was clean, you dump $400,000 into the renovation, and then the end buyer gets the title work pulled. And then, there's curative work that needs to be done, and you can't close also. So that's an additional thing to watch out for whenever you're buying pretty much any property. If there were issues at all that needed to be settled, I would just have an extra conversation with the title attorney and with the title insurance underwriter and ask them, what about this issue are you guys comfortable with? And what is the risk involved if I close on this property? Because that's the worst thing in the world, to get the financing, to bring in an equity partner, and you got this nice, beautiful house, and you can't sell it to a qualified buyer. Or you got to wait 6 months because you got to find an heir down in wherever, the end of the world, to sign a document so that you could sell a property. So,
title insurance, I used to, not be a huge fan of it and thought it's just But I mean, the more deals you do, the more you realize there's weird things that happen, and the more exposure and business that you do, you'll realize that it's important. Yeah. Right. I remember at one point I'd be like, it's just like throwing money away because you're never going to use it. Yeah. And you may not. Right. I would say hopefully 90% of the time you're never going to use it, but that 10% of the time, that's a lot, especially a lot of capital tied up. especially for a real estate investor, because if you're buying it cash or you're buying it that means that's $200,000 tied up, not doing nothing, dead.
Yeah. I'll give you a quick story. So we had a transaction where we sold it to the end buyer, succession property. The title attorney pulled all of the records, everything checked out, death certificate, the obituary lined up with the succession and everything. We closed on the property. After they closed, the investor goes to clean out the property, which they end up face to face with the occupant because it was an occupied property. But the occupant is the owner. So the whole time we had it under contract with somebody that had everything matched: the name, the social, the marital status, everything. Well, what happened was the correct documents, the forged documents were filed in Orleans Parish, and the correct documents were filed in Jackson, Mississippi. So somebody, whoever it was, filed those records in Orleans, and everything looked clean in Orleans Parish, and then the correct legal documents were in Jackson. Well, title insurance had to cough up and make the buyer whole on that. So it looked bad on the title attorney side, but I mean, to their credit and ours, because we pitched in to get this thing closed, everything checked out. Every normal routine that you would go to.
They're going to go after that person.
Maybe. Yeah, and so the buyer, he got his purchase price back, but that's still a blemish on the attorney. But,
and it really boils down to this: is like, what can you do about it, right? You can, especially if you're just the homeowner, you don't have a title insurance company with lawyers on guard. Because, I mean, you're going to have to pay for the lawyers. You're going to have to pay for this. Yep. I mean, the money is just going to start going tick, 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 tick. Yep. And you're just stuck like Chuck, unless you turn it into a rental and, or something like that. Mm-hmm. But, you definitely can get stuck.
Yeah.
Handcuffed.
So we still want to encourage everybody to keep buying, keep selling. But those are other factors, if you never heard of them, that do exist.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Westbank meetup. What exactly is that? And you kind of got that. I see you involved in that a lot.
Yeah.
Love your talks and who you've had, man. You've had some good people out there. So what exactly is that? Tell everybody.
So Westbank Real Estate Investors is a meetup group. We started back in 2019. We used to meet in the back of a restaurant, and the same model applied. It was just a group of investors, because the community is already small. So you got people that are in real estate business, that's a community, and then it shrinks when it's people in real estate that invest in real estate, and it shrinks even more when it's people that invest in real estate in New Orleans and on the Westbank. So we grouped all those people together, and that was back in 2019. All of 2020 we couldn't meet, of course, because of COVID. But that's it, man. We picked some active practitioners in the area. We sit down just like this at the 610 6th Street, Gretna, Louisiana, St. Joseph Church, and it's about 100 people in the room every second Thursday of the month, and we just talk shop. So basically, what we're doing now, we go from how they got started, but the main focus is number one, the energy. So there's North Shore REIA. I encourage everybody, if you live on the North Shore, go to the North Shore REIA with Courtney. If you are in New Orleans, still go to the New Orleans Real Estate Association because they're all intertwined to make the investor build a community and a network for them to be as successful as possible. So as far as us, we just have a different, I think, personality than all of the other ones, which is not bad or good. It's just different. Right. So after we meet, ironically, we do meet at a church, but then after we go to a bar, and that's where like the real wheels start turning and the real relationships grow even thicker, because during the actual meetup, you listening to the interview, and if you didn't get there early to speak to somebody, or if you couldn't stay, in the room later before everybody leaves, you get that extra opportunity to speak with, the person in the room that you wanted to catch up with, right, while you were at the meetup. So that's what I like most about it, man. It's we have a Facebook group. If you Facebook Westbank Real Estate Investors.
Right.
You could join the group. That's free. We have our first big quarterly meetup, April 15th. That is going to be at the Intercontinental Hotel. If you just Google or search InvestFest, NOLA.com, you can sign up for that one. And that is just the whole approach is collaboration over competition. And I think that's the secret sauce in being a successful real estate practitioner, period, is your community. So if you run into issues and if you can't pick up the phone and find the right person to call to solve that issue immediately, I think you swimming at a disadvantage in this business because you're going to lose time. So just like we talked about those tax sale problems, just like we talked about, what happens if I bought a property and now we under contract but there's title issues, there should be somebody that you should text or call to get an answer to that problem. And if you're a lone wolf in this business, like that's the ones that get eaten first and get taken advantage of. So you want to run with a pack. And man, if you're there every second Thursday, I guarantee you'll find a group, not even one person, but a group of individuals that either share the same niche that you in, or at the bare minimum share the same problems that you share, because just in real estate, period, we all have the same challenges every day. We all have closings that don't close. We all have insurance quotes that come back that don't make no sense.
Oh God!
So
don't even get me started on that.
It just helps to have somebody to at least text or call, grab coffee with, lunch where it's not weird. Like we know each other, we're acquainted, and then the Facebook groups just enhances the relationship because you could post a question at any time if you're going through a certain situation. And I just love the energy of the group. Because nobody is stingy with information. So whether you're a newbie or you're trying to get to your 100 deal, there's still an unknown that exists at whatever level. It
because it always changes. It always changes, right? Real estate does not happen in a vacuum, right? Alive. So it's constantly changing, and you never know, how it's going to play out. Right?
I agree. Well, that is the advantage of that group. And any meetup. So I know Sterling Chapman does the Red Stick.
Yeah, he's doing a great job here. The energy of that.
We had him as a guest.
What we like to say is a secret agent is not an agent, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if people don't know what you do and who you are, and you're not connected to anyone, you're not going to be successful as an agent or an investor or pretty much anything, because it's not going to work out for you. Right? You've got to have a network of people that refer you, bring you up, support you, and that going to those things is extremely important. And what I would say about yours, I would say your Facebook group is really, really good.
Thank you.
Like I'm in all of them, and I'd say when people post in your thing, you see people commenting on them and interacting.
It's like an attack.
It just speaks to the, everybody puts in their 2 cents. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. But at least you're getting some feedback, right? Like, and it might be good feedback or bad feedback. Who cares? I welcome the feedback on Falaya, right? If you think it's good, great. If you think it's terrible, that's great too. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Maybe adjust a little bit. But anyway.
No, you're doing a great job, man.
Yeah. So I guess you did have something Courtney came and talked about creative financing. So that seems to be a really big hot topic. Like how did that conversation go, and what exactly is creative financing?
Well, first of all, if you want to see the episode with Courtney, go to Westbank, YouTube search Westbank Real Estate Investors, and then go to Facebook and Facebook search Westbank Real Estate Investors to see that full episode. But right now, as far as the state of the market, I think days on market are getting high. The sellers are running into a panic. And I think the biggest thing that is happening and that will happen is these COVID forbearances, that people were able to defer these payments for months and months. And now they're getting these, $30,000, $50,000 bills, where the mortgage company is like, look, we deferred these payments for 24 months. You got to do something. There's going to have to be some type of way that the seller and these mortgage companies are made whole when a sale just doesn't satisfy the debt service. Right. So when you get into creative financing, it's just a method of different tools and approaches to service various amounts of problems. The good thing is that there's always an answer. Even if there's no answer is the answer, right?
Right.
Because, if we can't help you, for example, in a state of foreclosure, we feel like we can't stop this thing from going to short sale. We can't purchase it during pre-foreclosure. Well, there's still a space as far as whether we can, buy this thing at auction or, maybe we could step in and assume the balance. Because there may even be some instances where the occupant can stay in the property if there's enough, cash flow and equity where they could pay rent back to the investor, and the investor could pay their arrears. Well, that's different type of situation when we talk creative financing. And man, Courtney, you gotta get Courtney on the show.
I definitely want to get her in here
because she really gets down into the weeds. She even made a recommendation on a calculator that she used to really get down to the numbers, because when she does the deal, it's not just at the transaction. She can make these projections using a calculator of how much this thing is going to cash flow and how and when, she needs to exit out of the property. So she really took it to another level when you talk about creative financing. Because with real estate, the biggest thing is, I know a lot of people want to talk about acquisitions and accumulating units, but the exit is the biggest challenge. So if you're gonna buy it, how are we gonna exit off of this interstate? Because you can't ride it forever. Either you can't ride it forever because of the term on the debt service, or you can't ride it forever because the cash flow is so small. And if you do ride it forever and it's an asset, well, it's still a building, so you're gonna have deferred maintenance, and at some point, it may or may not make sense to hold on to this property, whether it's 6 months or 60 years. You gotta have an exit strategy built into that. So with creative financing, that is multiple exit strategies to where you can go into a purchase, because it don't even have to be an investment. Because even on the MLS, you see lease purchases, you see bond for deeds, you see owner finances. All of those are tools in the toolbox of, creative financing. Right. But you just have to be wary. You have to be skilled whenever you start getting into those niches and approaches to acquisitions, because if you're not familiar with the lifespan of that creative transaction, what's included in that, you can end up losing your shorts. For example, I want to add this before I forget. The transaction that Courtney mentions in the interview, the property taxes shot up or will shoot up after they renovate the property. Well, she had to account for that, at the acquisitions front end part of the transaction, where I know I've been guilty of. I didn't account for that. I was just so gun-ho on cash flow and what it's going to be worth, once I fix it up. Like, taxes never even crossed my mind at all. And if you're buying a property subject to, if those taxes go up, the escrow is going to go up. So if you thought you were cash flowing on this debt service that, the note was $1,300 a month, well, once the parish reassessed that property after you renovated it, you could end up being at a deficit, and that $1,300 could be $2,100, and you planned on renting the property at $2,000. Now it's a problem. And if you don't have equity, you can't dump it, and now you holding a property that's not cash flowing. So that is some of the things to look out for with creative financing. But man, if you are an investor and you're active, I think either you need to partner with somebody that is like head down and absolutely knows and loves that stuff, or you're just gonna have to ride the wave and learn it yourself. Matter of fact, Courtney has an event coming up. Not sure when it is, but if you Google search or Facebook search North Shore REIA, I'm pretty sure all that information should come up. Also, by the time this interview comes out, she still should be going on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, if you're ever in a bind and you need to sell one of those properties, you can always use Falaya.com and save on the commissions and not have to pay as much. You know what I mean? So anyway, just selfless plug.
Shameless.
But Courtney, she's got a big event going on the Gulf Shore, I think, about
creative financing,
and really it's how do you do it, and it's all about her mostly is about subject to the existing mortgage, right? So you're buying it subject to the existing mortgage. A lot of these people in 2000, bought properties, and when COVID was happening, the rates were so low that people were getting them at 2.5%.
Right.
I saw one at 2%. I mean, that's like unheard of, right?
Yep.
So it's so cheap, and they're locked in on these low rates that people are trying to, and if sellers still want to get max amount of money, the rates have gone up so much lately that the payments have gone up so much, right? Like some of these people that are trying to move up in homes, it doesn't make sense because they're having to pay almost $1,000 to $2,000 more a month, and it's like they can't wrap their head around it, so it slows down the market. And so the subject to, which is interesting, I think even for the realtors and for everybody, is like, how do you get the market moving again? Yeah. And subject to could be a way to do that because you can buy it subject to the existing mortgage. And now instead of that mortgage being $3,000 a month, it's now $1,600 a month because they bought it at 2.5 subject to the existing mortgage, right? So now they can get top dollar for their house. Yeah. The reason why people are getting beat down in their pricing of their house is because the interest rate is so extremely high. Right. And so subject to is a way to solve that problem.
Yeah, if everybody is on board with it, it's a perfect strategy.
It is a perfect strategy, and I really think it is. I mean, granted, there has to be trust involved, right, and mechanisms in place, and I think that's what she's going to go over. Yeah, is how do you create those accounts and make that trust? Hey, I'm going to deposit 3 months worth of payments in there. You can always check the account and know that I'm 3 months ahead. And if you did that, then I mean, why would you not feel comfortable? And then if you have the ability to foreclose on me if I don't pay you. Yeah. And here's the document that says that, so you have to put paperwork in place and processes in place to put people at ease. But I could sell it. I think I could. I think I could definitely sell it to somebody if I had the right bank accounts open and had you have access to look at it. Yeah. And I'll deposit the money in there and it'll pay the mortgage every month.
I think the biggest challenge to overcome is the fact that the loan still stays in the owner's
Well, you
name.
have to also, then you have to get into the paperwork of, hey, they don't have this mortgage anymore. It's me. And that you give that paper to them and then they have to show that to the lender, right? Yeah. And I would say there's some lenders that aren't going to play with that. You're right. So it's going to limit you on your ability to get loans from like Chase Bank isn't going to mess with that, right? Yeah. But there are several lenders out there that will. Right.
Yeah, if they underwrite the new, if they underwrite the new buyer the same way as if it would be a new loan, if they're okay with it, and you can assume it, go for it. So yeah, that'd be interesting if that strategy becomes mainstream. I think that'll save.
Oh, I think it will. It'll save. I personally believe it will become mainstream if rates start going to 8, 9, 10. You're going to see what she's talking about go. Through the moon because it's the only way to make people be able to sell and buy. Yeah. I mean, it's really going to become a thing or owner financing, because they're not going to be able to do it any other way. A lot of things won't be able to be offloaded because of that, right? Yeah. I mean, they just won't move because people can't take hits to make the reality is you make X, like Jacob makes this amount of money every month. This person makes this amount of money every month. You've only got so much money every month. You know what I mean? And so you can only spend so much on your house. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so it's not. And so what does that do? The rate goes up, but the money ain't, the people aren't getting paid more. They're not getting paid more. Right. You might have gotten a 3% bump or a 2% bump. They're not getting paid that much more. Right. Like, I mean, what is that? An extra $500 a year? Like, it's not maybe $1,000 a year. That's not helping you. And the monthly note is going up by 1,000, 1,500 a month. I mean, you know what I mean? And so it's just not sustainable is what I'm saying. And so the housing prices will have to come down in order to equate for that. Or you could sell it subject to and keep the price high. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So that, do you want to lower your price? Can you lower your price? Yeah, that's the other thing is, do you have enough equity?
Allow it?
Well, do you have enough skin in the game to even do that? Right. And that's where people like Courtney and people that are doing this provide a lot of value because these people are stressed out, dude.
Yeah.
They need to exit this property. They got to figure out a way, but they can't. We're still with the realtor because the realtor, if I put it on the open market, it's going to sit because they can't sell it for $600,000. They need to sell it for $700,000, but $700,000 with 6.5% interest rate is that's a high note, right? Yeah. And so, but at 3%, that's hell yeah, you can sell it for $700,000. You see what I'm saying? And that's what the problem they're trying to solve, and I think it's a huge one, especially if the rate goes up and up. Yeah.
I support it, man. Anything that keeps the market moving, I support it.
Right.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. So I guess so creative financing. What about buy and holds? Do you do that a lot? How do you evaluate I guess tell our listeners, like, how do you evaluate a property if you're going at it? How do you look at it to evaluate it as a buy and hold, a fix and flip, or how are you looking at it?
A couple of different variables. So it all pretty much, so for buy and hold is cash flow. True net operating cash flow, not the difference between your mortgage and your rent amount. I'm talking, taxes, insurance, management, vacancy rates. We want to include all those. And then once you get lower and lower to those, not top line revenue, but lower bottom line, that's your actual cash flow. So if it depends on where it is and how much equity is in it. I don't have a true buy box at the moment, but that's what we look for. So will it cash flow, and at the price that is either being offered to us or the price that we have it under contract, how can we exit out of it? So that's really the X factor for me, if whether it'll be a flip or a buy and hold, because I want to leverage the financing as much as possible to flipping it to some type of fixed debt service, to where, I can ride out into the sunset and rent this thing out over a 30-year term and let rents, increase at the same rate or beyond inflation, but I still have that fixed interest rate, throughout the life of the term. So it really comes down to the terms of what the property, what purchase price and the terms that the property is being offered at. Right. And if I can't refinance, and put cash in my pocket and it still cash flows, and it's probably going to be a flip. And then as far as the flip goes, that's just a profit number in mind at that point. Well, time and profit, because we'll take a little bit less if we know we can get in and out of there in 15 days, 30 days. But if we talking 3-6 month renovation, well, we need an X% return, back after that renovation.
What do you look for in that? So what is your percent return that you kind of use on average? I mean, I guess it depends on project to project.
It does, and it depends on the structure. So
the risk.
If it's a joint, whether it's a joint venture, how many lenders are involved, how long do we plan on, being in the property? It just depends. Because I run my shop more on volume than being picky, only because that's the rate of the opportunities that come my way because of networking. At the end of the day, there's no other reason why. It's just being in the rooms with people that are always active, being in the rooms with other people that always have opportunities. Is just a byproduct of being in a community of investors. Right. So with that being said, I try not to say no to, a lot of deals. So that's why I don't have a set number, because if we could put a situation together where everybody wins and everybody comes out positive, then let's do it. I'm not going to say no to a deal because I'm not getting a 30% return on it, or I'm only getting a 7% return on it. If if there's value on how much time and energy I put into it versus what's coming out of it, that's just, like you said, let's get to the closing table and let's just get it done and get on to the next deal, because that's just the rate of speed that we're running right now. So there's a lot of smart people that have these fixed metrics in place. So right now we just don't. So my number is profit. I'll put it to you like that.
Yeah, my number
profit. As long as we come out of this thing profitable, and all the investors get their return back, then let's get the deal done.
Right.
Yeah, within reason. I mean, but we definitely won't take a deal where, you know, there's negative equity and there's negative cash flow. At least for my operation, I can't justify that. But like how we talked about the larger shops where they may buy at a loss, you know, for economies of scale to move on to something else. I've seen where that can work, but that just doesn't work for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So one thing I've noticed in New Orleans in particular is this New Orleans River District. Have you heard of it? Mm-hmm. So I find that very interesting. The Twiropa Mills, you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know Tyrol, but I know of the River District. Isn't like Top Golf supposed to be one of?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the River District, I mean, it's that area, you know, off of Tchoupitoulas, near the river on the other side of 10.
Yeah, it'll be nice.
You know, so or of the bridge. So, but I'm interested to see, like, do you think there's any like ancillary real estate plays due to that, or do you think how do you think that's going to impact the New Orleans market with that redevelopment of that whole area?
I think it'll make an impact on the areas that are on the outskirts of the high value area. So for example, that area is like in the middle of Central City and Algiers. So there's parts of Central City where people won't touch, and then there's parts of Algiers that at the moment people won't touch just because there are more higher value areas that have more of immediate impact if I could turn around and sell this property, or if I buy it, the appreciation will be way faster than if I go 8 blocks out. So now with the River District, I think there's a residential component to it. So there's going to be a lot of market creation that when they build, you know, these new units on that particular property, these appraisers are going to look at the map and those values got to go somewhere. So if I'm on either side of those values and they high values, well, it has to help at the end of the day.
I agree.
I don't think it'll hurt. Just to also compact that much commerce in that area, it just makes New Orleans that much more attractive, because New Orleans is already like, it's not a summer destination. We don't have beaches. We don't have water slides or anything like that. Only thing we have in July is Essence Fest. And then after that, it just goes cold until the holiday season. Well, if you have this River District, you know, now you become more family friendly. So, you know, now, you know, the dad from wherever can go to Harris Casino, and then the kids could go to Top Golf and still be downtown, right?
So we got the casino and we got Top Golf.
All in the same space. So now that impacts tourism. So now we have more jobs. So we have more employees. There's more W-2s. There's more people qualified for financing. So those people have to buy houses. They want to be close. So now that, you know, 800 square foot shotgun blighted house that is only worth, you know, nothing right now, it could at least be worth $10,000 now for somebody to buy it for 10 and put 80 into it, and, you know, sell it for 170, 180 to that person that says, I want to buy this house because I'm a general manager at Top Golf and it's 3 minutes away from my job. So I only see, you know, positive impact. And I want to encourage everybody also, LinkedIn, like the River District has its own page on LinkedIn. So if you go on LinkedIn and do a LinkedIn search for the River District, I would join that, like it, and all of the updates, all of the meetings, and all of the media that's involved. Like, you'll get real time updates from it. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. I think that area really needed it. I really like that Twiropa Mills. Those are the ones.
What is that?
That's the one that sticks up out of, you know, it's the mill stacks that are out of the ground that kind of look like they're rusted and about to fall over. Back in the day, we used to go to concerts and raves up in there. It was but now it's even more blighted. It's definitely not good. But back in the day, we used to go see Galactic and went in there. But I mean, it was I always thought there was so much opportunity right there. Like that area is just perfect location, right?
Yeah.
And there's just not much going on, you know. So I'm excited to see it. Honestly, I think
They have
the
a
redevelopment.
great. They have a great board in place. Shout out to Michael Meredith. That's one of my good friends. He's on the board, and they just have great plans. So, you know, the ETA on when it's supposed to be. I need to check the page. I just saw the rendering. So I'm excited about it. And I live in Algiers, so I think the impact to Algiers Point, the impact to the surrounding area, even Mid City, like anything in that, I think 1 mile radius is going to see a positive impact. You know, from that whole development, especially when they complete the residential aspect, because now you're going to have these newly renovated or newly built properties. So if I build a new construction on a vacant lot in any one of those areas, like now that's one of the comps that the appraiser has to at least consider if they don't.
Oh, I would completely agree.
So,
the only thing that worries me is the traffic up and down Chavatulas. But I mean,
are they building a bridge?
I mean, I don't know. That's the only negative I see, because that's like the uptown interstate, right?
Yeah.
And how do you know, like, let's not kid ourselves. It's the uptown interstate, dude. You know. Yeah. And so that interstate's gonna start to get clogged, dog. And it's
already one lane up and down.
It's only one lane, right? So I mean, if they could figure out a way to widen Chop, I think it would be a very beneficial. But I don't know how they're going to do that. But I think that's what needs to happen. They need to have another thoroughfare going uptown.
Yeah.
That way, and especially dropping that many cars and people in that area, right? But with but with progress, there's always going to be there's always going to be friction, man. Not everybody's going to love you, dude. When you're a developer and you're trying to do cool stuff, you know, they're either going to love you or hate you. You know, same thing with us in Falaya. Yeah. So I mean. It is what it is. You know what I think they need to do, though? They need to go to New Orleans East and get the Six Flags and the Water World back, huh? How about that, redeveloping that? You know, you said we ain't got no beaches, but we got a run down old.
But there's a development already ongoing in Penny. I think they selected the developer. I think it was like almost an auction style. They had a couple of names in the hat.
I didn't read about it yet.
Yeah,
okay.
There was one company that got selected. I have no idea what's the status of the plans. But yeah, man, I think, New Orleans East is tough. That's one area that you can still make money in that part of town. You just got to be smart about it. But I'm confident that eventually there's going to be a big commercial presence that it just got to make sense for somebody.
Well, it's been, I mean, I used to call on those Lowe's stores in New Orleans East, man. It was just, it's tough over there, man. It just is. You know, and I know Kevin works with the AT&T stores over there, and man, they had to put up bollards in front of the door, because people were just running in and ramming and taking I mean, it just it was pretty.
It'll get there, man. It'll get there. So what's a part of Baton Rouge that used to be like that? So what was a part of Baton Rouge?
I would say Mid City was that way, right? Like Mid City used to be like somewhere you didn't really want to go.
Wow.
I would say a long time ago it was kind of blighted. It's been transformed, and I think you'll see that even more on Government Street between Park and downtown. I think that is like an area that's really going to come up in the next 10 years. They're going to put that railroad depot there for the train that goes from Baton Rouge to New Orleans. And I think all those houses right now, used to be people in the corner, like constantly, like selling, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And now they're not doing that anymore. And they've called in with the police, and they've kind of reined that in, and all those houses in there. You'll see some wholesale deals Jay will try to put together that are like, you know, $10,000, $20,000.
Yeah.
You know, and they're blighted properties up in there. But I think that's gonna at some point just like, because it's so close to the Garden District, it's close to downtown, and then you've got some really cool. The electric depot there has been really revitalized. Used to be the old electric company, and it's been revitalized, and it's a cool space. Has a bowling alley, a rooftop bar, and a coffee shop.
Eventually, once the East gets more safe, you'll get things like that.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. It just, you need something like that to kind of draw people in. And because, I mean, you wouldn't have wanted to go over there even 8 years ago. I guarantee you that. Right? So it is what it is, man. Mm-hmm. But, dude, this has been a blast.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Thank you for having me, man. I enjoyed it. Everything looks nice. So
yeah, man. We try. Yeah. So is there anything you want to tell people before we, call it quits here?
Man, so April 15th, if you're available, come on and join us. Go on investfest.nola.com. Dominique Gunderson has done a great job with just taking lead on, putting a great night with the sponsors and all of the guests that's involved. So you definitely should come. It's on the weekend. So the people that can't come to the Thursday meetings, whether because of work and family, I get it. That's one of the nights I could actually get out of the house at night. And that's only because I'm the host. So if you can't make a Thursday night, you should be able to make a Saturday night. And for 2023, I just want everybody to just focus on growing your community, not just networking, not just speed networking, grabbing cards, but actually building a community and getting involved. If this is something that you want to commit to, if you want to be a lifelong investor, you go way farther with a community around you than you would by yourself. So.
Completely agree. Agree, man. Well, it's been a blast, Emile. I'm excited for you, man. Can't wait to see what happens over the next year.
Definitely.
And hopefully our networks continue to grow together.
Absolutely.
We do some cool stuff.
I can't wait till your IPO, man. I want to be there for
that. We'll see, man. We're working on it. We're expanding, man. We're expanding. We're in Mississippi now. I don't know if you knew that.
All right.
But we're in Mississippi, and we're about to expand into some other states.
Let's do it.
Keep us on the radar. Yeah. So anyway. All right, guys. Well, appreciate the time. We'll see you next time on the Falaya Focus Podcast. Hey, guys, I wanted to take a second and say thank you for watching the Falaya Focus Podcast. At Falaya, we are reimagining the way real estate is bought and sold. So we need all the love and support we can get to grow our movement. Please tell all your friends and family about all the great things that we have going on here at Falaya. Please like, share, and subscribe to all of our content. And we'll see you next time on the Falaya Focus Podcast.